Retro Now.
Hi, this is Emily Swallow, the Armorer in The Mandalorian. You're listening to Dennis and Jay on Podcast Stardust. This is the way.
Hello, and welcome to Podcast Stardust. This is the fully armed and operational podcast dedicated to Star Wars news, reviews, and discussion. I'm Dennis Keithley.
And I'm Jay Krebs.
And it's Friday. We hope everyone managed to stay warm this week in the face of the polar vortex that's been chilling the entire country. I think except for Florida. We need to move to Florida. All right. But anyways, it's time for a look at some recent Star Wars news as we wrap up the week like we do on every Friday. But before we get into the news, Jay, I want to remind everybody where we can be found on social media.
Sure, I just hung up my parka. We are on Facebook and Instagram, conveniently at Podcast Stardust.
All right, the dish is aligned, the signal's boosted to maximum output, the shield is down, and we're now broadcasting to the galaxy. So, in addition to being really cold this week, it was also a very light Star Wars news week. And most of what we got has to do with the upcoming Star Wars celebration that's going to be in Japan in April. First up, we have the final release of the badge art on this. So we've got new badges featuring Mon Mothma, Osha Anasea, Princess Leia, and Cassian Andor, and then there's a number of badges that feature two characters. We got the Stranger versus Master Soul, Kylo Ren versus Rey, Obi-Wan versus Anakin, and then a kind of a team up of Kai Brightstar and Nubs from Jedi Adventures,
Young Jedi Adventures.
Yep. Yeah. I've not watched a minute of that other than like 2 minutes from a YouTube thing they did in advance, but I haven't watched any of the episodes itself. So yeah, those are our new badges. You had a chance to check these out, Jay?
Yeah, and I have to say there's a great variety here. I'm assuming that the Kai Brightstar and Nubs are going to be for the kids passes.
That was my guess,
but
yeah.
anybody could appreciate those, I'm sure. But I definitely dig the light versus dark theme, of the dual characters. I have to say though, I love that Mon Mothma badge of her holding what seems to be some sort of plans, but it's more in the form of a scroll, which is so fitting. And it's just beautiful. I love the profile of that and the colors. And of course, Leia, I love me some Leia always. So I have to say those are my favorites, but very great to see some of this acolyte being represented as well. I mean, they're getting things from basically all over, which is great.
Yeah, we kind of talked about, what kind of presence Acolyte might have at Celebration. And, Manny Jacinto is going to be there. And so I would not be terribly surprised if he's not in some sort of a panel, perhaps with Doug Chang and others that maybe did some work on that show. And I suspect when this was all commissioned, they had higher hopes for the Acolyte based on compared to what it ultimately ended up doing. I know we just talked about how it was like the second most viewed series on Disney Plus a few weeks ago, as was the report for 2024. But they've canceled it. They're not doing a second season here, and I suspect there was high hopes that they would be able to talk about a second season of the Acolyte at Celebration. And okay, so they're not going to. I guess they could surprise us and change their minds, but we'll find out. But based on recent statements from Daphne Keene and others like that, they're processing the cancellation. And it seems unlikely is what it comes down to. So with that being said, I just can't get enough of this art style here. I'm not saying it's how I want all my Star Wars, but this style, which is this is by Taku. The artist's name is Takumi, and it's that Ukiyo-e style, which we've talked about, which was thrived in Japan from the 17th to the 19th centuries there. It's just like when you get steampunk or some other take, medieval warriors from Europe or whatever like that, with Star Wars mapped over top of it. It's just a fun look at this. And so our samurai and ninja type art that we've got going on here is just really cool. And plus, the fact is that Jedi robes already go well with this
Oh, yeah,
style, and so it's
for
just
sure.
another step along the way. For
Mhm.
me, of this collection, that Anakin and Obi-Wan duel, from Revenge of the Sith, is just amazing. Uh,
Mhm.
I really can't get enough of that, with the way their lightsabers look like the katanas. Now they've done the katana thing several times here, but even just something about the way that he drew Obi-Wan in this one, the gray more around the temples, it really does give him that wizened Jedi Master look. And then with Anakin there, it just the scar on his face, the way that he drew the eyes on that,
Oh,
it
yeah.
does really demonstrate someone who's slipping into the dark side. It's
Mhm.
just such a great little piece of art that they did.
Oh, I agree, and I love the way that they have the wave coming up, as you would see the tsunami sort of feel from
Uh-huh.
Mustafar for the lava.
Yeah.
That's a great touch. And
You're
all of
right.
these really, I mean, they as you said, with the, Takumi artist in this, particular style of artistry, they all tell a story, and that's what the Ukiyo-e is all about, is storytelling. And then, of course, you have all of your influences from samurai, which we've seen time and again in Star Wars, so it is so fitting.
Right. Exactly. And that was a good call on the tidal wave because how many times have we seen that? Especially when they do Godzilla prints in this
Yeah.
style, and the Yukio thing. There's always some gigantic tidal wave in the back. Of course, it's the ocean, not lava. But that's a
Mhm,
good call. And then if you go look at the Leia one, you kind of got that orchid that's in the
mhm.
background. And then if you look at the Rey and Kylo Ren, you've got the red. I'm not even sure what flower that is. I don't. It doesn't look like
I
a
think
cherry
it's a
blossom.
poppy.
Yeah, okay, poppy, yeah. Those that flower motif that they use in the background of that art
Mhm.
is very prevalent in these badges, and it looks really
Yeah.
I just gotta chuckle a little bit when I see the Kai Bright Star Nubs print because, again, I've not watched Young Jedi Adventures at all, but those little clips will show up as thumbnails, like, on YouTube for me all the time,
Mhm.
and when I own Disney Plus a few times has tried to recommend it to me, I think, but they look way more dangerous here than they ever have on anything I've ever seen of these 2.
Yes, I would agree, definitely would agree, and it's interesting that they have a little, like, Saturn type planet in the background,
Yeah,
it's very, our universe kind of thing, but I think something that if it is for little kids, they will definitely be able to appreciate and relate to. And,
yeah.
as we were talking about the flowers and things too, it hit me that the Anakin and Obi-Wan badge is the only one that doesn't have some sort of foliage or flowers, or, even the Andor one looks like he's in some sort of a field of wheat or some sort of grasses or that type of thing. And the only biological natural element, if you will, is the lava tidal wave, other than the very small moon or whatever it is in the back.
Yeah, I think what they did, Takumi did with the Anakin Obi-Wan badge is that instead of, like, having, uh, cherry blossom petals floating, it's the
Mhm,
lava
mhm.
ashes and
Mm, oh, yeah,
cinders that are
good
floating
call.
in that image instead. Um, I like I said, I just can't say enough about this, because even, again, looking at the, Master Soul and Chimere or the Stranger, whatever you want to call them, they got the leaves falling there. They always have
Mhm.
those organic elements to the art. And check out Chimere's mask on that.
It's
I mean,
brutal looking.
yeah, I mean, it's got the teeth are more pronounced compared to what
Yeah.
was on the mask in the show. Um, and then the way
I will
he's
say it's
wielding
a
the
little
sabers.
Jack Nicholson looking for me.
Oh, really? I hadn't thought of it that
Sorry, I
way.
didn't mean to interrupt you, but he does. Doesn't he kinda look like, "Hey, kid, I'm about to get you."
Hell, okay, yeah, I
Sorry, I
can
didn't
see
mean to
that.
ruin it for you.
No, that's all right. That's all right. But I'm also noticing, like, I think you point this out on, Cassian Andor has a Death Star in the background, but so does Mon Mothma there because
Mhm.
there's usually these almost all of these feature a moon or a sun in the background. And of
Oh, yeah.
course, doing the Death Star makes perfect sense uh, for that as well. So now that we've got the entire collection of badges here, and if you go to Celebration, you don't get to pick your badge. They assign you one based on what kind of pass you have. If it's 3 days, if you just have a single day, if you're a vendor or if you're a volunteer, an adult versus a child, the Jedi Master versus the regular type of admission. So you can see why they need so many different type of badges, so they can tell just at a glance who's doing what on there. But assuming that wasn't the case, which one of the 17 badges would you most like to have?
Of course you were going to ask me this
You,
question.
yeah, of course.
Well, of course, I'm always partial to Ahsoka, and that one is really fantastic. And I do absolutely love the Padme Amidala one, where she's got one of her traditional queen robes or queen outfits on from episode one, and she's got the fan as well, because that particular outfit that she's wearing is so Japanese inspired to begin
Hmm.
with. But gosh, it's so hard because I love the Asajj one as well. And again, I do absolutely adore the Princess Leia, and gosh, I I I would probably want the Ahsoka one just because it's part of it would have to go with my collection. So that's
Way
that's
to
my
commit.
final
I was
answer.
not going to
Yeah.
let you get away with picking four of them here. Um,
I have a feeling I know which one you would pick, but what's your
well,
answer?
for me,
Final
it
answer.
comes, yeah, I mean, yes, it's not an easy choice. I'd be happy with so many of these. Um, I would prefer, as much as I like Mon Mothma and I like Leia, I would prefer one of the ones that either has a character with a sword or a gun in it. So,
Mhm.
and of those, I think my two favorite are the Mandalorian and Grogu. One, because
Mhm.
it's
That's a
so
good one.
timely, and I have a feeling that it's going to be such a big part of Celebration this year. And then two, Darth Vader, the samurai style
Classic.
armor that they've given him. That's not a unique thing. We've seen the samurai and style action figures for Star Wars quite a bit over the last couple of years, but uh, that as a print on my wall would just be absolutely incredible. And of the two, since I made you commit, I will commit myself, and I would probably go with Darth Vader on that one. And of course,
Solid
they're probably
choice.
going to make that one super rare, would be my guess. For I'm just wondering how they're going to assign which of these to which. I mean, Yoda levitating would be excellent for the Jedi Master Pass, but
Oh, heck yeah.
yeah. So, but again, I mean, well, you couldn't go wrong. Every
It's
time I look at
true.
these, I keep one. I'm tempted to change my mind on which one's my favorite here. But we could be talking about this for another 20 or 30 minutes and not come to an absolute conclusion here unless we're put on the spot. So the good news is that they are making the badges available as pens as well. They've announced that as some of the amongst the merchandise release for Star Wars Celebration. The other things that are available right now are the T-shirts that they have at every celebration that just say Star Wars Celebration, the location, and the year on them.
Mhm.
But these they have both in English and Japanese. So there's that.
They're very
The
cool.
Yeah, the other bit of Star Wars Celebration news that we have for the week is that we have additional guest announcements, and I think this was aimed squarely at you, Jay. The two guests that were announced were Anakin Skywalker himself, Hayden Christensen, and the voice of Harrison Dula, Vanessa Marshall, who is
Yes,
very much a Star Wars Celebration staple there. I couldn't imagine you would be happier with
it's
guest
true.
announcement.
Yes, it's absolutely true. Yeah, of course, I booked my flight to Japan, so just so you know. No, I'm kidding. But I did reach out to Vanessa too, and I just said, "Hey, congratulations." So I know she's super excited. So, yeah, I'd love to be able to go over and see both of them, but solid gets for sure for the lineup of celebrities. Absolutely.
Yeah, unfortunately, getting a ticket to Japan is like more expensive than the the entire cost of going to a celebration here in the States.
Oh,
You
I'm
know,
sure. Mhm.
your pass, your hotel, your airfare in the States. I mean, you can drive obviously in the States to save money, but just getting Japan by itself is not cheap. But the other thing that was interesting about this is that this is labeled as the final update on StarWars.com.
I noticed that.
And so we've got a grand total of 16 announced guests. And I can't say this with certainty, but that seems like less than what I'm used to for Celebration.
Mhm.
Is
Mhm.
that what do you
I
think?
agree. Well, I'm wondering if they're considering these 16 to be more of the, quote unquote marquee type guests, not to, degrade anyone from being in that top 16, but I can't imagine that they wouldn't add, more artists and voice actors and, more niche kind of guests that would fall into that category, but maybe not as and again, I hate to say as high a caliber as someone like Rosario Dawson, for example. But I think you know where I'm going with that, but I don't want to downplay it. But it is early to put a finality. I mean, we're only in February. So usually, I mean, I
Well,
know
less
it's
than 2 months
almost the end
away.
end of
So,
February, but
yeah.
and they do have to make arrangements and travel plans and but I don't know. I'm used to hearing a few more sprinkled in there at the almost at the last minute, but I don't know.
Well, I think, we basically were talking all around it. The big issue is that this is Japan. And it's one thing when Celebration's the United States and
Mhm.
you've got dozens of Star Wars actors. You know, it's a lot to ask a bunch of, I mean, how old are the kids from Skeleton Crew? Are they teenagers
Right.
at this point? Asking them to fly over to Japan for just 3 days for something. And it's a lot to ask for someone to show up in Japan for 3 days and take them away from a project. That, so I think that's part of the issue is that to get people over there, they can't be involved in any other project at the moment because it's losing at least 2 full days of travel. And I'm not
Mhm.
talking about the, take an hour to get to the airport, sit at the airport for 2 hours, get on your flight for a few
Right.
hours. It's like that. So, I mean, you're looking at like at least 16, 20 hours of travel time in any one given day, probably more. I haven't exactly looked at how much time it is
Plus
there.
the time change.
Right, and it's only a
Mhm.
3-day only. I mean, celebrations in the States tend to be 4 days, so it's only
Right.
3 days on that. So it's a lot to ask. Does that mean that to your point, does that mean that there aren't gonna be more actors that are there for a panel? Could Daisy Ridley make some sort of an appearance because they wanna talk about the new Jedi Order? Possible, but, I'm beginning to wonder what panels and things are going to look like here because a mainstay of the last batch of celebrations have been Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau here.
Mhm. Mhm.
Are they going all the way to Japan or are they going to be busy with post production on The Mandalorian and Grogu?
Right. Good
And
point.
you know, sure they took time out of that to go to Celebration Chicago and then Celebration Anaheim in 2019 and 2022, but it again didn't involve that much travel. Or are they going to appear via video the way they did at the D23 event in Brazil?
Oh, yeah.
I'm kind of wondering if that's not going to be the case on that.
Mhm. Mhm. I think that's a good call, and I think that that's definitely something that is a big potential because, I mean, of course, in today's day and age, we do a lot of Zoom calling anyways, and why not,
Right.
call it in at a celebration?
Right.
And then
So
it makes sense because in Anaheim, it was in their backyard, you know what I'm saying?
sure.
So, there could be several little appearances, quote, unquote, "here and there and everywhere," but not over the 3 days. Yeah, I miss being able to have those 4 when was it 5 days? Which was the 5-day one? Was that Chicago? Was that the 5-day one?
No, that was for.
Was that
Um,
4? There
well,
was one
there
that was 5 days.
was, yeah, because there was that Thursday
Mhm.
preview day in Chicago, then Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Or did they have
Yeah.
on Monday as well? I don't think they
I think
did.
there
I
was a
can't remember.
Monday. I wanna say there was a Monday. I know I didn't stay for the Monday, but at any rate, we
Yeah.
gotta get it back in the States. Come on.
No, there was a 5-day in 2019,
Yeah,
Orlando.
Chicago.
Okay.
Or wait,
Yeah, or did it 2019, you're right, Chicago.
yeah,
So,
because I was gonna say
uh
that's where you and I actually met for the first time in
right,
person.
right. I had the Orlando and the Chicago badge, like, sitting right next to each other. I misread this.
Oh, no,
But at
you're
any rate,
good.
yeah. So yeah, Chicago was 5 days. So it was the Thursday preview day, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Was the way
Mhm.
that worked out. I remember it's like everyone left Monday afternoon. I
Yeah.
was at the hotel by myself that evening. Going, I should have gotten a plane home, but whatever. But yeah, so this is a 3-day celebration. We'll see what happens going forward. I mean, I expect there's going to be a huge blowout one in 2027 celebrating the 50th anniversary of A New Hope, but we'll
As it
see.
should be.
Yeah, but when it comes to this, I mean, like I said, I wouldn't be terribly surprised if there was someone else that gets revealed in Japan, but they're there for panels. They're not there for photo ops and stuff like that. Just for fun. I had yesterday, we were recording this on Thursday evening, but on Wednesday, as I was kind of finalizing some of these notes, hoping the more stories were going to show up, but they didn't. I went to the Celebration website and went to see what was still available for photo ops and autographs. And surprisingly, it just seems like about everything was at that point. But I actually had to wait a few minutes in a queue to get in.
Oh, wow.
And
Mhm.
well, I think that might have been just because that's the same time that Hayden and Vanessa were announced. So maybe people were trying to buy their Hayden autograph or
Ah,
photo op at
maybe.
the time.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
and the prices were in yen or whatever the Japanese currency is. So I wasn't able to figure out how much anything actually cost.
That
But
was
it
gonna
still
be my
seemed like
next question. Yeah, go
yeah.
ahead, finish your thought.
I was gonna say, yeah, I have no idea what the cost is compared to what we paid for those same autographs or photo ops here in the States.
Mhm. Yeah, because that was gonna be my question was, did they have that expressed as yen or in US dollars? Because I noticed when I was looking at the merchandise and we were just talking about the pins that everything was listed in yen. So I went on there and I was trying to do, whatever the current conversion was and some of the pins, I don't know if this was right because it listed them anywhere from basically $11 and almost 38 cents. It was $11.30 up to like $30. And then some of the t-shirts were around $30, which makes sense, and some of the other merchandise and things like that. But yeah, I thought that $11 was very very reduced price, compared to some of the other kinds of merch that you might get from Celebration. But I'm wondering if we'll have to pay any kind of exchange rate fee if we do happen to purchase anything online, if we're able to do that. What do you think?
That's a good question. I don't really know. I have absolutely no experience with that since
Mhm.
the 3 celebrations I've been to were all in the States, Orlando, Chicago, and Anaheim. So yeah, I really don't know about that, but we'll find out. It would, yeah. I mean, I'm excited for Celebration. I really am. I can't wait to see what we find out. I can't wait to. There's always stories that come out of Celebration. That's cool, and I'm excited for everyone that gets to go to Japan. That's on my bucket list. I want to go someday. But this is not the year for it for me. It does not work with my schedule at this time of my life with the son in college and another one about to go. It's just there's anyone a parent who's been there knows that that's just expensive time, and so just not going to work. And if I want to go to Japan, I want to be there for longer. And yes, could have added time on to the front or back of it, but I don't know. Part of me just says like, I'm going to go to Japan. I want to go to Japan. I think I want to do it separate from a Star Wars event. But that's not to say
Exactly.
um, I mean, if I had 2 weeks, okay, that'd be awesome. Go to Celebration for 3 days and then go see the rest of Japan for a week and a half. But I know there's a lot of people who are doing something like that. It just does not work for me this year. And I knew that as soon as they announced Japan is where it was going next. It was like something really unexpected would have to happen for me to go. And I made a peace with that. But all that's to say, I'm excited for what they're going to announce, but having just the way that, they did that final update on StarWars.com with these are the last guests for, I was like, huh, it just seems smaller than usual. And that's not to say that it won't be a great event because I'm sure it will. And I'd love to be there. But um, on the same hand, I just feel like, as we just talked about, Orlando was 5 days and Chicago was 5 days, Orlando was 4. So, you know, it just and maybe that's a necessity. They just can't get it. It's hard to ask a lot of people to go do celebration on the other side of the world. So,
Mhm. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that is a very big ask for sure.
right.
But, I'm with you. Yeah, I would love to go to Japan, but I don't necessarily want to spend 3 days in a convention center when I can do that here in the States.
Exactly.
But anyways, yeah, while you were talking, I was curious. I went to the yen to US dollar conversion, and for the Hayden Christensen, Rosario Dawson team up, it's like 67,000 yen, which is $445.94. So
Wow.
there's your answer. So about $450 to do a team up. And then just, I don't know what a the bulky autograph is helmets, lightsabers, prop
Yeah.
replicas, so on and so
Uh-huh.
forth. Because at first I was like, what's a bulky autograph? And then I realized exactly what it was when I was starting to do that. So your cheapest option is 29,995 yen. So 2995 is about $200. So that's about what you pay here in the States for, a photo op with Hayden. So that's not
Yeah,
too far off.
that's in line. That just the wow, the markup on having both of them though, that's huge.
Yeah,
Uh,
that is huge.
so so I've wanted to meet them both, haven't had the opportunity. Last couple
Right.
times Rosario's been in the Dallas area, I've not been in the Dallas area. So one of these
Mhm.
times I'll get to work out, and yeah, it is what it is. And as much as I enjoy those things, there's just as much as I enjoy the local con, there's just something about celebration and doing it there when everybody's there for Star Wars and you're
Oh, yeah,
amongst everyone who loves the same thing. It's a lot less divisive when you're at Celebration amongst the Star Wars fans. So
for sure. And you can always hit a local con and maybe meet some of them there too. Manny
yeah.
Jacinto is gonna be at Fan Expo Cleveland, just found that out today, the day that we're recording, so I might, take a little side trip while I'm there and see if I can't, meet up with him. We'll see.
Okay. All right. Well, then, okay, that's our updates on Celebration for this week's Star Wars news here on Podcast Stardust. We hope you've enjoyed it, and we'll see what they got coming up next week in the news. And I'm sure there'll be more discuss about Celebration probably on almost a weekly basis as we get closer and closer to the big event in Japan. And again, I'm excited for the people that we know that are going, and hope that they are finalizing their plans and get ready to have a great time. They must be getting excited. But if we hope you enjoyed the discussion. If you did, if you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing to Podcast Stardust, and you'll get all of our updates about Celebration as they come over the next few weeks. And once you've done that, you can head over to archersapp.com and find all of our back episodes, all previous 850 of them. We've been around for a while. It's been quite fun. And you can check out Jay and Josh on Enjoy Stuff. They just celebrated 1,000 episodes together. So go give them a little bit of
Awesome.
love. Jay, remind everybody what our social media contacts are one more time and where else we can be found on the internet.
Absolutely. So we are very conveniently found always on Facebook and Instagram at Podcast Stardust. And you can check out our Pinterest boards. And I need to update those because there's a really cool thing on StarWars.com this week about some really interesting food items that were very creative. So I need to put that on there and a few other things as well. So if you're into all kinds of creative things, Star Wars, check that out. So also check out our two YouTube outlets. So we have our traditional YouTube as well as YouTube Music, and those do support reviews as well as subscriptions, and we're still going for that plaque, so we got to get all the subscriptions that we can get. And then we also have our T Public store, and you can support us by picking up one of 7 different show logo designs available on all kinds of fun things, from t-shirts and sweatshirts to coffee mugs and even baby onesies, wall hangings, tote bags, you name it. So the link to that will be in our show notes.
All right. You want to give everybody an update on the world of cosplay?
Sure. Right now, it's kind of the calm before the storm. So I'm getting ready to amp up for a couple of spring events that I have coming up here. And you can check all of that out on my Instagram, which is at j.snipscosplay. And in the meantime, you can catch my posts as Ahsoka, Hera, the fourth sister, as well as my original concept Mandalorian, and maybe a little Leia sprinkled in there as well. And my next event will actually be Fan Expo Cleveland in March. So once again, check it out at j.snipscosplay.
Okay. Upcoming on the show on Monday, we are talking about the season 1 finale of the Clone Wars. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then on Wednesday, we got something new. We're starting a new segment on the show called Laugh It Up Fuzzball, where we start looking at the various Star Wars parodies that are out there. And we are going back to the beginning with the first parody of them all, and that would be Hardware Wars. It's going to be an interesting episode. Make sure you check that one out. It's not necessarily going to be a monthly feature, but it's something we're going to do from time to time so we can kind of talk about some other stuff that we've been dying to talk about for years now. So hopefully I've piqued your interest with that. And with that, I just want to say thanks for listening to episode 851 of Podcast Stardust. Have a great weekend, stay warm, and until next time, may the force be